I gotta say, I feel like this is one of their products that releases that's really up my alley sound-wise. Because the price is very good for this. And I feel like a lot of people will probably really appreciate this board because of that. Neo65 Core Plus. We're gonna jump right into it. They sent this over. They sent this free of charge. I'm pretty positive for keeping it. Like with most of the Neo boards, I end up giving them away afterwards. But just to make it clear, this doesn't affect my opinions or anything, as you've seen with other reviews of mine. Sometimes I have a lot to say. Sometimes things just work. Better bottom case. Okay, so they're doing raised ridges on the inside, which is awesome because that helps deflect sound a bit differently. Upgraded aluminum and CF plates. So plates do matter a lot. Both of our aluminum and CF plates now feature a redesigned layout with strategic slot above the space bar. See, that's huge. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize this. Bull actually spoke about this the other day too. But how you design a plate is a huge part of a keyboard too. We've seen things like relief cuts. We've seen things like more isolated space bars. We've even seen things like where the space bar is just completely opened up compared to the rest of the plate. So I'm interested to see how this will feel with this giant relief cut on top. Dual mounting system with upgraded gaskets. Okay, so we have the PCB and gummy O-ring. We have to make sure that we'll probably use a plate today then, because you can't actually build this plateless, by the way, because it is PCB mounted from the gummy gaskets or the gasket dumbbells, whatever you want to call them. Oh, so they changed this a little bit. So they're saying this is going to create a more even pressure. You may or may not feel from something such on small scale. Then we have lock and pull mechanism. So this is nothing new. They did this in their other board. Basically just an easier way to pull this out. It looks like we have a pogo pin connector, which is great. Here are some of the more important specs. So 18.1 front height, 7-degree typing angle. And then here's the weights with the brass and the copper. But then we have our solder PCBs and then our wired, hot swap, and then the wireless. So right away I can tell from these photos, there's a lot of options to choose on all of these PCBs. QK never disappoints in this aspect of boards, or Neo doesn't disappoint. Makes me happy. Looks like we are getting 1,000 pulling rate in the tri-mode one. Actually, all of them are 1,000 pulling rate, which, by the way, I think 1,000's all you need. For anyone wondering, like, is this going to be 4K, 8K? I think for the standard person, all you're ever really going to need is 1,000. If you're going, like, crazy gaming mode, maybe if you're, like, a pro player, get a little faster, but I think I play decently well in video games. Like, I'm not a fucking all-star, but I think 1,000's all I've ever noticed being a difference. Everything past that, I feel like it's the same old keyboard, just with with worse battery drain or negative performance to the computer. So they're giving you some very generic, like, what to pick from here. So carbon fiber, aluminum, which I kind of don't agree with. Carbon fiber being the hardest plate, I kind of don't agree with that. At least from my opinion, I think aluminum is usually a little bit, depends on the thickness, but I've always felt aluminum be a bit stiffer than carbon fiber ever is. But maybe there's some science behind that I'm just, like, stupid and not realizing. And then clack, they're saying carbon fiber is the clackiest. It is clacky or have a high pitch, but I think there's a different high pitch you get with aluminum. That I think aluminum ends up usually being more of the resonant clacky, or the more metallic-y clackiness. Here are all the colors: burgundy, purple, black, titanium gray, teal, jade, slate blue. Ooh, wait, that's really nice. This might be my favorite color. Silver, spark white, and eclipse gray. How does eclipse gray look? That's nice too. And then we have the price sheet, which this is what caught my attention because plateless solder with a brass weight is $105. Pretty wild pricing. I think most people will probably end up getting the $130 or $125 option. But for people who want a copper weight, like, it's only a premium of $15 for the top end of the solder. And if you're getting wired hot swap, which I think maybe that'll be the most popular PCB, you're looking at either 140 or 135 with no copper weight, or 150 to 155. Honestly, even in its most top-end spec here, which I wouldn't consider the copper to be any... The copper's not an upgrade, truly. I'd say that's just a side grade. I'd say 145 or 160 being the absolute top end for this board is insane. It's actually crazy. I think they sent me a bunch of stuff for accessories here, which... If you guys want to know the pricing of all the extras, we'd have to take a look. What do we got here? A puller and a cable. That's nice. These are parts you need to build with. O-ring, gaskets. I'm assuming feet here, which is cool. We have Oh, are they putting this into every box? Well, I guess so, because this is the puller. That's nice. You get technically a plate fork with this. And we got some stabs. That alone is a nice addition, because I mean, like, not everyone has a plate fork on hand. And then, damn it, I was really hoping we got the soldered PCB today. We got foam, we got the hot swap PCB here, and then we have an aluminum plate and the plastic plate over here. I'm most likely going to be using aluminum for this. All right, let's open this guy here up. All right, so right away I can tell you that there is some nice like subtle curves. It's not just straight lines like in the weight and stuff. That's nice. When you're gonna get boards like this that are made to be a bit cheaper, you're not gonna get the most complex designs. All right, so I'm gonna take out the mid foam here. I mean, it looks good. We have very thin side bezels, not as thin as like the Kaze Mini we saw yesterday, but still relatively thin with a thicker forehead and chin. Very, very simple side profile. I do like that there's a bit of a slope that happens here on the side. I think that adds a lot to this board already. So it is a box on wedge, but it's a little bit more elevated because we have this little curve over here, which I appreciate them doing. We have a little badge here on the back. Again, we have the copper or brass, whatever which one you get, running through the back over here too. That's interesting to see. And again, I like this. I like how they sloped, you know, this area over here. It's not super simplistic like I've seen on other boards. There's a little bit of lip that protrudes here on the bottom of the case, so I'm gonna measure to that. And this is not including feet. So I would say roughly 18.1 is what I'm getting. 18.1. Also has this badge here on the back. I don't love the compass logo. It's there though. It seems to be a fixture in the Neo lineup. Again, I do think there's some elevated aspects of this, which I really appreciate. But for the price point, you can't really go wrong for, I guess, this design. I think a part of me would have loved if this was a bit more flush. See this right over here? I would have loved if that was a bit more flush. All right, here's the PCB. Lots of options on the hot swap. Fantastic. I love Neo's hot swap PCBs. Like, look, ISO, everything. So much support. You gotta love it. And the plate support matches this too. Literally, I can't ask for more. All right, so what do you guys want to test first? O-ring or gasket? Any preference in what we do first, guys? I think that's really it. We don't really have to do anything else. So now we can just test things and put on keycaps. But again, just some quick little notes on this. It's a one-piece assembly here. I really like keyboards that add the ridges on the inside. I've just found personally out of experience, they actually do alter sound. And it's done in a very, I wouldn't say a large way, but I find that if you happen to have a keyboard that's full aluminum and you add some of these ridges and they're actually substantial, like these are pretty substantial, this will end up making the keyboard sound more full without the need to go crazy on putting a huge internal weight. It changes the way sound scatters, basically. So it's really interesting. We've kind of gone in depth in it in the past, but I really like it. It's a cool feature to have on boards. Not every board needs it, but I feel like some boards really benefit from it. Now, second question while we wait for the gaskets is, what are we putting on this? So we're doing O-ring, it looks like. And then we'll swap. By the way, if you guys plan on building this and you're like, I don't want to use the included stabs, it's O-ring. You're going to need to use some sort of clip-in or else the O-ring might not work. Oh, I actually like what they did there. There's a little slot there for the O-ring too, so it doesn't have to just press up against this block. Nice, very nice. Very nice. What keycap is this? This is Metropolis. Well, Midnight Metropolis. Wow, I'm pleasantly surprised with this. This looks really good at this case. We have the Neo65 Core Plus. Let's see how this sounds like. We're using an aluminum plate. We're starting off with the O-ring build, then we'll move to the gaskets. See how this sounds with MX2As and aluminum plate. I mean, yeah. You know, oddly, this is really soft. Like, more soft than I'm used to with an O-ring board. In a good way. Usually O-ring boards are a little bit more denser feeling for me. So the spacebar is interesting. I can definitely see the spacebar, like, look, there's some movement. I don't know if you guys can see this. Definitely some movement. I wonder if that extra cut on top of the plate is making this have some depth. It doesn't have as loud of a spacebar as some of the other O-rings I've built with a plate. I would say very nice though. Interesting. Okay. All right. So let's try with the other gaskets now. So these go on the PCB now. Yeah, you know what's funny? Every time Neo does a board with O-ring as a mounting option, I feel like almost every time I've preferred the standard gasket when they do dual configs like this. There is a gasket point sitting here and here. Little concern for those. Maybe we'll end up taking those off, but we'll see. Maybe no concern, because these are a bit of a different construction. So they're not just a solid piece of silicone. But let's give this a go. So this would just sit like that. Oh yeah, dude, I like this way more. Definitely a little bit bouncy. It's not as much as you'd think though. Like, it's not super bouncy compared to that 30A O-ring. I thought that one there actually felt a little bit more like squishy. Dude, this sounds really good. And now I'm going to take out those, I'm going to take out those spacebar gaskets. As you guys can see, taking this apart is incredibly easy. Not a huge difference in sound. I would say leave the gaskets in. The gaskets taking off and on, to me, I'm not hearing much of a difference. The only thing I can possibly tell you is when you remove the spacebar gaskets, like the gaskets that are sitting right here-ish, maybe they're less fatiguing, but I feel like this construction of how they did these little gasket dumbbell things works extremely well. So they have like all these, I mean, I think calling them relief cuts is an understatement here, but it's a different construction where maybe this compresses differently. But this is actually pretty good. I'd have to do a little bit more like looking into how this would affect the keyboard overall, but interesting. Yeah, these little grommets are definitely shaped in a really good way where I don't think it's affecting it much. Damn. Okay, I really, really like the gaskets over the O-ring. But the O-ring's fun too. It's not a bad choice by any stretch of the imagination. I just prefer this. I think with the standard O-ring that you get with the keyboard, it's softer. If you like it bounce, like a little bit more bouncy, and you want a little bit more pep in your step while you're typing type thing, I think go with the O-ring. Which one do you prefer, the Neo65 CU or this one? Realistically, this one. I'm not afraid to say that. I actually preferred the Neo60 Core over the CU series. I think I said that too when they first came out. I don't love full copper bottom keyboards. Like, they're fine, but I don't love them. They produce a bit more of a deeper overall sound, which I'm just not like a huge fan of. I prefer the aluminum internals or just a mix of internals where you can get a little bit more resonance out of it, opposed to kind of a more deepened or deadened sound. So if your goal is to get more of a deeper sound signature, you're gonna like the CU series more. If your goal is you want more of a clack, like what I like, you're gonna like this guy here. I gotta say, I feel like this is one of their products that releases that's really up my alley sound-wise. That's nice. This is a nice board. Overall, I'm very happy with this. Again, this configuration minus switches and keycaps would be $155. You can even get this to be incredibly cheap if you go with the solder PCB, which again, you know what? Plateless on this might slap. If I prefer the gaskets on this, the plateless version might be amazing. Take care, everybody. Love you and talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.